Okay, top of the morning there, fellas. We're doing a little experimental video today because it is going to be the next episode in the Road to a 600 bench press. But today is my rest day before my primary bench day tomorrow, where we're going pretty heavy again. Figured I would walk you guys through kind of what I do the day before a big session, kind of walk you through my day, because I've kind of come to this term of like prepping for a session. Prepping for a session to me really just means we're even more on the ball a certain number of days before a big lift. So you guys, maybe you just need to be on the ball the night before, go to bed early, morning of a big lift, and that'll give you this huge advantage in being likely to get your PR. As you get more advanced, that prep might start the morning before. That prep might start a whole week before. When we start looking at really advanced athletes, like Max and I use this term, I'm prepping, and we kind of know what we mean, which is that like everything is going to be dialed. We're probably bumping our carbs a little bit. There's kind of these processes of preparation and making sure that we're not partaking in anything that would take away from a lift, and that begins a certain duration away from a lift, depending on how difficult it's going to be. So yesterday was a prep, today was a prep, tomorrow we have, I want to say 515 on the bench press, question mark, but that's pretty heavy. Percentage-wise, it's nothing crazy. I believe it is 89% of what I'm going for at the end of this training cycle, but that is definitely enough to have me worried and have me preparing. So I figured I would take you guys through what a rest day looks for me, how you guys could kind of take some of these things on your weekend days and implement them to make them slightly more optimal for your next day of lifting. And I feel like I owe you guys a clarification or an apology. When I put up that thing asking if you guys would like vlog format videos, all I really mean is this kind of thing. You do not have to worry. I'm not going to be doing eating challenges. I'm not going to be harassing strangers on the street and asking them stupid fucking questions. None of these things are going to happen. I was just thinking about it last night. I like making videos that I would want to watch. I mostly watch educational content. Cool, boom, pow. I mostly make educational content. I'm a pretty boring dude. But that being said, I thought about it last night and I was like, holy shit. My favorite videos ever, looking back, the videos that I was the most excited to see, like I woke up in the morning and the next one dropped, have always been kind of vlog style videos of athletes preparing for big lifts. Whether it's that Klokov video, whether it's Pavlo's road to a 505 kg deadlift, there's only a couple episodes of that. Whether it was Rich Piana's Bigger by the Day, whether it was Hafthor's videos in his prime, I love those. Seeing the behind the scenes mundane life of someone preparing for something that I thought was pretty goddamn cool. I picked up a lot more tips from that than a lot of educational videos, just seeing what things look like in practical application. So I thought maybe I could take you guys along for videos that are like those videos that I enjoyed. Take you through my day, kind of walk you through the stuff I do to get ready for a big lift. Breakfast, first thing I do every day. I eat breakfast as soon as I get out of bed, before I even brush my teeth and do all of that stuff, because I want to have as much time to eat all my meals as I can. And the earlier you start, the earlier that is. If you wait until 11 to eat your first meal and you're someone who struggles with their appetite, you're really going to struggle to get it down. So waking up early enough on the weekend, you might even wake up, eat breakfast, and go back to bed. I've done that before if I felt like I didn't rest well. But wake up early, eat my breakfast. It is the staple meal, the meal on which all of my strength has been built. We have jasmine rice, 93.7 ground beef. We have 75 grams of broccoli slaw in here. I don't know if you can see it. And then we have a cup of orange juice. Usually I will have a little thing of frozen blueberries. This meal, I've tried all these different things. Part of it's because I've got IBS, so I have to be a little picky with my food. But I gravitate back to this. This is, for some reason, this just makes me feel so strong. This is the cornerstone of what I've found helps get me stronger. Is if I'm eating this meal 4 or 5 times a day, maybe I can mix it up for 1 or 2 meals, depending on what the meal plan at the time is looking like. But I come back to this meal always. It is the shit. Maybe I'll do a video breaking down why I think this meal is the shit at some point. But and also bone broth poured onto the beef, veggies, and rice to make it easier to eat. A little bit of extra protein, a little bit of collagen. Collagen may or may not actually be helpful for your joint health, but supposedly, according to Stan Efferding, it is quite good for your gut health. So we're going to put this down, and then we're going to take our first walk of the day, because a lot of my day is the day before a big lift. I don't want to be stagnant. I want to keep the body moving. I kind of want to shuttle those nutrients across the whole body. So it's basically this process of eat a meal, go out for a 10-minute walk, do some coaching, do some stretching, eat a meal, rinse and repeat those 4 things over and over and over. If I could run through that process 5 times a day, go to bed, I sleep well because I moved a good bit, and I tend to be pretty goddamn strong the next day. So that's what we're doing today. Okay, what's going on, fellas? First walk of the day. Just trying to make sure I get my 10,000 steps. A, because it helps me eat enough food. B, because I feel like when I get my regular step count on my rest days, it helps a ton with the recovery of my lower body. Because a little fun fact that was drilled into me by my physiology professor, the lymphatic system doesn't have a pump, right? So all that fluid that builds up in like your interstitial spaces in your fucking legs, that shit just stays down there because of gravity, unless you have muscle contraction to kind of drive that lymphatic fluid. So something recovery. Also, the goal is, here's the water bottle. We're going through 10 of these today to get to my 5 liter of water minimum, going off of 1 milliliter of water for every calorie burned, roughly, as my intake level. I've been trying to bait somebody into being like, oh, bottled water is bad for the environment. We don't have clean drinking water. Check your fucking privilege. We got uranium in the water, motherfucker. I've been trying to bait. No one's bit the bait, but hopefully one day I'll get it. Okay, in addition to the walking and the eating back and forth, I also do a good bit of mobility. I do mobility every day. You'll hear some people, they'll say, oh, well, the research says that full range of motion resistance training is all you need. Well, I don't know what to tell you, but I am doing full range of motion resistance training, and I feel like my mobility needs a little extra work, right? I can't really do much more lifting and still recover from it. So I figure that's where a little bit of dynamic and static mobility, just increase the time of exposure to these positions I want to be mobile in. It's worked well for me, and I find that when I'm on top of my mobility, I'm able to drill more efficient movement patterns on my main lifts, and everything tends to go a bit better. So I take my mobility more serious than many, although I'm more than happy to admit this might also just be because I weigh 260. I probably placed less emphasis on mobility when I weighed 180. That effort could have been better spent back then on something else. But one of the things I do every single day is I do 20 reps of these over and backs. I find them very useful for squat mobility, to a lesser degree bench mobility. All around, this is kind of a staple fundamental of my upper body mobility, as well as arching over a roller, which I will show you guys in a second. And when I'm working my overhead, I have a couple of kind of lat stretches for overhead mobility. Right now, we're not really doing those. We're just focused on the upper body. Is really just these over and backs paired with the arching over a roller. But I wanted to tell you guys, I had a very funny dream last night, a bit of a nightmare. I had a dream that I got a sponsor from like some generic supplement company, and they were paying me a fat bag, and I had to come on here and I had to look you guys in the eyes and say, oh, you guys are running into a bench plateau. You know, the best way to overcome that is not increasing your bench frequency. It's not reevaluating your nutrition and your sleep. You just need to have 2 scoops of fucking ape mode or whatever the hell. That's how you overcome your plateau. And all of you guys were like, what the fuck is wrong with you, Sam? You've sold out. And then I woke up. But that was that was an interesting one. Apparently it scares me to death that I would have to shill for some shitty underdosed pre-workouts at some point in my life to make a buck. But yeah, we're going to work our way through our mobility, and then we got meal 2 coming up. So we've done our 20 over and backs. That's something I started doing about a year ago, kind of in addition to just my basic bare bones, like fundamental mobility routine. Wasn't really doing much for my upper body, and that started to come back to bite me as I've gotten up towards 260. Just doing those goes a long way in terms of preserving my ability to do a good back squat, get my hands back there, get a good back level of back tightness. And the other thing that's been a staple for much longer than that year in terms of upper body mobility has been just kind of doing some T-spine mobility on a roller. There's a bunch of different T-spine mobility. You could do like cat camels. You could do quadruped elbow to ceilings where we're on all fours, put one hand behind our head, elbow pointed down at the floor, up at the ceiling, 10 reps each side. Tons of different kinds of thoracic mobility we can do. I think they all work pretty well. You can kind of throw a bunch of different things at it and see what sticks. But one I started doing when I was about 17, 18, was just kind of doing thoracic mobility on a roller. I saw a bunch of guys on the internet doing it, and I kind of figured out pretty quickly that the most important aspect of flexibility for the upper body is probably going to be the T-spine. Having a T-spine that moves well is great for your bench press, it's great for your overhead press, it's great for your squat, it's great for your front squat. Probably not the most important thing for the deadlift, but I kind of found that to be a cornerstone of upper body mobility. Not that I need to do too much of it. A lot more of my mobility is centered towards keeping my lower body flexible as I get larger and stronger. Preserving that is pretty important to me. But I've always done these, and I think they have always helped my bench press. So I do recommend you guys try it. All I do is I just kind of start with the roller up on one of my higher vertebrae up towards my neck, kind of manually arch over it. I'm kind of flexing those muscles to pull me into extension. A couple of times, move to a lower rung. Next vertebrae down, extend over the roller, move to the next vertebrae down, just kind of go to about the mid-back, just trying to get that thoracic spine moving, and I find that has a great impact on my bench press. Oh. Usually I'll do them with my hands over my head, kind of come side to side a little bit, really kind of squeeze my shoulder blades back, move around, just kind of introduce motion to the back, because I find that we're not really in an extended thoracic position very much ever in our lives. So this is our opportunity to expose ourselves to that position a little bit more. That way when we go to bench press, it's not the first time in the last couple of days we've entered this position. It doesn't take quite as long to get moving. And like I said, I've found that when I'm on top of these, I'm able to get up onto my traps a little bit better, and I'm able to turn the bench press into a bit more of a decline. And you'll know that downward pressing is stronger than upward pressing, right? We incline bench more than we overhead. We bench more than we incline. Usually we decline more than we flat bench. And if we look at total weight, we usually dip more than we bench press. Part of there's a small range of motion component there, but generally speaking, the musculature that presses downward is stronger than the musculature that presses upward. So if we can change our bench press just slightly, change that angle of press to make it a bit of a declined press, we can call upon those stronger muscles. And that's why we don't need to have a massive arch to where our range of motion is small, but I do like to see at least a bit of arch so that way we can make that press into a decline and get into that stronger plane of pressing that a lot of people also find is a little bit easier on their shoulders. Okay, so I have finished up my first kind of 2-hour shift of coaching. Usually on Sundays, I will try to break my workday into 3 2-hour sessions, because usually I try to work about 7 hours on weekdays and about 5 or 6 on weekends per day, just to stay on top of my stuff. We've just finished that up, and I'm about to go cook up meal 2. Normally it would be another one of the almost the exact same as meal 1, my standard power boosting beef and rice meal, but I actually bought some chicken last time we went to the grocery store because I had a couple of meals I wanted to try as an experiment to see if they were easier to eat. They weren't. So we're sticking to Old Faithful, but I want to go through all of that chicken because the way I was raised, even if it's a couple days past bad, just cook it a little extra longer and eat it. Don't let food go to waste. So we're about to do that. And I also was watching back that clip when I was talking about my mobility. I want to almost roll back something I said there. I think that lower body stretching can have some utility even when we are not all that muscularly developed, because in my opinion, lower body mobility work potentiates hypertrophy. If we have a reasonably flexible lower body, we're then going to be able to load longer ranges of motion and then grow more. That's at least been my experience. I found that when I kept my ankles more mobile, my quads grew a lot more because I was able to squat in a way that was more demanding on the quads. When I kept my hamstrings more mobile, my hamstrings grew more because I was able to load them and train these longer positions. And like a lot of people would say, well, just training through a full range of motion will do that. I don't know, just anecdotally, that hasn't necessarily been my experience. My lower body training has been significantly more potent when I just do a little bit of work. It doesn't need to be hours a day. I don't need to foam roll and myofascial release my way to the promised land before a training session. But I do find that before bed, if I do a little bit of dedicated mobility work, my lower body training is significantly more effective. My adductors grew more when my adductor mobility was good. My squat positions are better, so my squat tends to just trend upward easier when I'm more flexible because my positions are more consistent. Because I noticed a lot of the time when I would have these good sessions, bad sessions, it wasn't that I was that much more weak or strong on the good and the bad days. It was more that my positions were more efficient on the good days, and I was pretty similarly strong, but I was moving in a lot less efficient ways, and that was because of mobility. So I guess I'm a little bit more pro stretching than most, especially most on the internet evidence-based side of things. I think, if we look at sports, different athletes have different mobility demands for their sports, and the amount of mobility preservation work they do, sometimes it would be more than preservation level stuff. If they know their coach says, hey, your flexibility is impacting your ability to get into relevant sport-specific positions, we need to do more. But let's say we have it. Different sports have different maintenance levels of mobility based on the demands of the flexibility of the sport, right? So Kirsten used to do figure skating. If you're an adequately flexible figure skater, unless you're genetically very flexible, then you might not need to do much to preserve it at all. But there's a certain amount of work you might need to do to preserve that. If you're a catcher, if you're a hockey goalie, maybe there's a little bit more mobility work we need to do to preserve our sport-specific mobility. If we're in a sport where we don't have huge mobility demands, the amount of work we need to do to kind of preserve our mobility goes down. I would contest that deep squatting, as a weightlifter might do it, is pretty far along the line in terms of having reasonable mobility demands. So it makes sense to me that my mobility routine would be at least somewhat rigorous to maintain the level of flexibility I find to be helpful for my sport. Dropping down to pick up a stone once it's lapped and I want to stand with it. Having good flexibility helps a lot. There's times that having good flexibility I think is quite helpful in the gym. So I don't think we're full on ballerinas and figure skater modes of like, man, we're going to dedicate an hour a day to static stretching. But I do think that there is a time and a place for it. And I guess I'm more for it than most. Now time to cook up meal number 2. Okay, I've prepared my second meal. I'm going to eat this. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to get out my phone. I'm going to watch some videos of a bodybuilder mundanely eating food throughout the day, because for some reason that gives me tremendous motivation to eat my mundane food and get big and strong so we can crush a bench press tomorrow. I believe this is 9 ounces of chicken, uncooked weight, 75 grams of asparagus, got my rice, got a tablespoon of olive oil as a fat source, and then also, as usual, some chicken stock to make it go down easier. Finishing off this carton of the orange juice for the extra potassium, extra calories. I find that those of you who really struggle to eat a lot, the old strategy of alternating between something that's salty and something that is sweet seems to let you put down more food, which actually brings me to later today, we're going to do a little experimental meal. So normally my diet, you're kind of looking at it. Sometimes this will be cranberry juice. Sometimes the protein source will be chicken, fish, or beef. If there's an extra fat source, it'll usually be either avocado or olive oil. I rotate mostly just between broccoli, slaw, and asparagus. Mix and match. Sometimes I'll get some cheap salmon, frozen salmon. And I'll kind of mix and match that through 5 to 6 meals through the day. That is my diet most of the year. Right now, because I'm trying to put on weight, I'm kind of experimenting with my diet a little bit more, and we're taking a page out of Freaky D's playbook, and I've actually started eating a lot of Frosted Flakes because they're an easy to digest carbohydrate that I can have after training, as well as the fact that they're heavily fortified with micronutrients, which is cool, but mostly just that they're easy to eat. I could put down 1,000 calories of Frosted Flakes pretty easy. So we're doing a weird experimental meal, right? I like my diet normally, but that usually leads to me either leaning out or maintaining weight. Training goes well. I really like my diet. I think it's got all the macros I want from good sources. It's got all the micros I want. It's got many servings of fruit and veggies through the day. I feel really good when I'm eating these kind of standard meals I laid out there, but I can't get my weight up. So we're kind of thinking outside the box today, following that alternating between sweet and savory, alternating between salty and sweet food profiles to get down more food. The experimental meal I'm going to do after we run to the grocery store is I'm going to go get a big thing of cereal, milk, right? Cool. There's our carbs, bit of protein, and there's our sweet is the cereal. And then I'm going to get a bunch of turkey bacon, and I'm just going to alternate between eating cereal. I might even do this for 2 meals a day if it makes it easier to get down 1,200 calories plus. And that one's going to look less neat and healthy than my usual diet, but if that gets my body weight up, my bench will respond. And as long as I'm eating at least 3 meals of my standard stuff, I'm sure I'll feel just fine. Once I'm going to put this down, I'm going to watch some bodybuilding stuff, and then I'm going to go do a jog on the treadmill, which I'm not going to show you guys because I'm still easing into it so my shin splints don't get bad. just kind of a side quest. This is not necessarily a good idea for your guys' off days before a big session. Don't jog. Not really necessary. That being said, running is part of the sport of strongman, and I should be able to do it at a low scale. So I'm working on it. Basically, I feel my ankles, my feet, my knees, my hips, my back, my cardio, honestly, all feel really good. It's just my shins that I need to gradually condition to running at 260 pounds. Part of that's just me being brainwashed from years of boxing, where all the old school coaches were basically kind of hammered into my head. The only way to get in good shape is to run. You got to do your road work. All these other things, this wind bike shit, that's for pussies. They're just trying to get out of doing their road work. And it worked for me, man. So I guess to maintain my condition, I'm kind of playing around with that idea of getting back into some very easy jogging on my off days. Mostly just because I don't like calling myself a strength athlete. If I can't go bust out like a sub 8-minute mile at any time, I don't feel comfortable calling myself an athlete. I want to be a strength athlete. So we're easing into it. So far, so good. I've been putting in just like casual half miles at like 5-6 miles an hour, just trying to build up the distance over time and condition my shins. Honestly, really, so far, so good. No catastrophic effects. No, I'm not downsizing. No, I'm not going to be running a marathon anytime soon. I'm still going to go bench press 600, but a little side quest we're on. Okay, run complete. Did another half mile. Felt good. Just kind of pushed my shins into that general range of discomfort where I think I'll probably get like an adaptive response. It'll be slightly less bad next time. So run went good. Kirsten and I went to Winco to go grocery shopping, which means we have the experimental meal. If this is really easy to eat, then I'll probably have 2 of these today and 1 more of my standard meal. We're going to see. The main thing is just making sure I get down the amount of calories I'm looking for. That's the biggest thing. So, yeah, I'm going to dig in. Thank you guys for watching. I'm going to not talk too much for the rest of this video because I realized it's already pretty long. I'm not going to show you the rest of my stretching. We can get into that another time. I'll just show you the rest of my meals to save you guys some time. Okie dokie. Another round of going out for a walk, doing some coaching, doing some stretching, and we are back and we're running it back. That meal was really easy to eat, so we're eating it again. This is meal 4. Then I have my last bit of coaching to do, finish up my mobility, take Ode out for a walk, and then we will eat the 5th and final meal of the day. Like I said, I'm not going to talk too much more because this video is already long, but showing you guys what I'm doing the day before a big session. Okay, we have 1 more meal, 1 more walk to go. Everything's going good. I'm feeling pretty good for tomorrow, moving well. Definitely glad I got all my meals in. Almost forgot to show you guys. We have, oh my God, if you can see it. We have my nighttime PM supplements. So here we have more fish oil because I love fish oil. Magnesium glycinate, I think it's a 400 milligram thing. GABA, which helps with sleep latency. If you struggle to fall asleep on time, GABA is a pretty solid supplement for that. Highly recommend the magnesium to everybody. I think it's just hard to get from your diet unless you're eating a lot of almonds or oysters or pumpkin seeds. Most people just aren't getting it. The massive impact it has on sleep, as well as, it's necessary for muscle contraction, I'm pretty sure. I think it has a very profound calming effect on most people. I just recommend you get the glycinate version. There's a couple other good ones. Some of the other ones do have a laxative effect. The glycinate one does not have that as much. We have apigenin, we have ashwagandha, and we have extended release L-theanine. All just sleep shit. We're really throwing the kitchen sink at the sleep thing, like I said, because any little bit I can get better at sleeping will show up in the weight room. Okay, bit of a dummy realization. I want this video to render and upload tonight because we have an actual episode of Road to the 600 Bench Press tomorrow. I don't want to post this shit tomorrow. So I will not show you guys my final meal. I'm going to eat more chicken because I want to get through my chicken before it goes bad with some rice, some olive oil, and I'm going to wrap it up in a tortilla with some veggies. Very exciting. You don't need to see it. That was meal 5. I will take my dog for a walk and then call it a night. And then we're going to get ready for that big bench press tomorrow. Thank you guys for watching.